Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Please take your seats. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. If you all want to take a seat, we're going to get ready. I have to stay behind these lines. I'm a wanderer. That's going to be really hard. Thank you all so much for coming to our first annual State of the City for the City of South Lake Tahoe. First, I'd like to welcome everyone. We have a few dignitaries in the audience, and I'd like to welcome them. We have Julie Reagan, who is the Acting Executive Director from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. We have the General Manager of South Tahoe Public Utility District, John Teal, Todd Cutler, and Brandy Bannister from Lake Tahoe Unified School District, Jeff DeFranco from Lake Tahoe Community College. Amanda Adams is the president of the South Tahoe Chamber of Commerce. Darcy Goodman Collins from the League to Save Lake Tahoe. Bill Martinez from the Family Resource Center. And we have several members of our city commissions. And we have Dr. Clint Purvance from Barton Hospital. And we also have I almost forgot, we have the executive director of the South Tahoe Chamber, and I shouldn't forget him because I'm married to him, Dwayne Wallace. So I just saw him in the back. But I just want to thank all of you. You're all very important to us. So I'm going to set this down so I don't have to carry it. We also want to welcome the people that are joining us online. We are going out live on Facebook Live. So thank you all for joining us. We'll be taking questions at the end after both Joe and I speak. And so if any of you have questions, at each of the tables around the room, and if you see a city staff person, you can ask them for the cards, the question cards. And there's a box over at this table right here between the two doors. Or you can hand the cards to a staff member, and they will be read to Joe and I at the end. So just to keep things flowing. So again, I'd like to welcome you all to the first annual State of the City for the City of South Lake Tahoe. Next, I'd like to introduce the City Council members. So we have 4 of us here tonight. Christy Cregan, first, our Mayor Pro Tem, Devin Middlebrook. He's here. Christy Cregan, a City Council member. And Cody Bass, City Council member. John Friedrich couldn't be here tonight. He's out of town. So the City Council, I'd like to say, is the what, and the city staff is the how. We talk about things like the built environment, recreation and equitable access, community for all, economic development, and continuous improvement. Or as I like to say, police, fire, roads, and housing. So we have a $114 million budget in all of our funds, but our general fund is $54 million this year. We have a 25% reserves, which totals about $12 million, and we have 200 employees at the city. The vision for the city is elevating South Lake Tahoe by providing service excellence for an inspired future that values the natural and built environments, civic engagement for all, and economic prosperity. Again, we're the what, and the staff is the how. So the City Council is the legislative and policymaking and lawmaking body elected to represent your interests. So we have been, Mr. Bass, Mr. Middlebrook, and I have been on council for 3 years now. Ms. Cregan and Mr. Friedrich have been on council for just 1. And I have to say, this has been the joy of my career in the public. I've worked in nonprofits. I've been involved in many, many things in my entire adult life. And this city council is a joy to work with. We are 5 incredibly different human beings. We have completely different views on many different things, but the one thing that we have in common is we love our community. We love this community, and the one thing that we like to do is work together and make a better community for all of us. So it's been a joy to work with this group of individuals and work with this staff. We have City Manager Joe Irvin, City Attorney Heather Stroud, who work directly for the council, and everyone else at the city works for Mr. Irvin. And we have a great group of people. That 200 employees at the city are just doing wonderful things. So over the last 18 months with COVID, we have had many challenges. Just like small business and business in general throughout the United States and the world, we felt like we had to step up. And we did. We immediately formed 2 committees of the council. one to deal with the short-term economic impacts of COVID, and one to deal with long-term changes that needed to be made in the structure of our community and how we needed to diversify. So we immediately started producing dollars directly back to the community. We only received about $270,000 in CARES Act funds, the first round of funds from the feds. But we put back in the community $1.1 million. And that was in the form of, I think we gave $50,000 to the local food banks for food insecure people who were struggling through the pandemic. We did a $75,000 gift card program to help stimulate the economy for restaurants, because restaurants really struggled in our community through this through the pandemic. We did $100,000 COVID grant funding to help again stimulate the business community. We did $700,000 in small business loans. Those are still, they were interest free, and they don't have to be paid back until next summer. We did a $50,000 small business relief funding and $100,000 to the Sierra Business Council for long-term loans to the business community. In addition to that, we relaxed all of the rules for business to operate. You see all of the outdoor seating for restaurants. That is still ongoing. That is going through the end of this year. We did some winterizing. Restaurants in Tahoe, it's difficult for them to have outdoor seating in the winter, so we gave funding for outdoor fire pits and heating and things like that, so it was easier for them to operate in the winter. Then, after all of the stuff with COVID, we all had a fire. We had the Calder Fire, and we evacuated in the city limits 22,000 people. Funnily enough, or however you want to put it, just a few weeks before, our first responders in the room brought before council on August 3rd a new evacuation plan and a program that they had developed with all the other agencies in the basin that we work with on a mutual aid. And they put together a plan that the council approved, and just a few weeks later, we used it. August 30th, they evacuated 22,000 people out of our community on 2 lanes just out here in 4.5 hours. And we did it without a loss of life. I was in that line of cars. I don't know how many of you were, but we did it. It was truly a sight to behold. In addition, that same day, they moved the Emergency Operations Center from City Hall out at the airport to Harrah's. So they were all stuck in that same line of cars, moving the Emergency Operations Center over there. The EOC was originally activated on the 21st of August, which was several days before the fire ever reached the basin. Our staff, our first responders, our city manager, who was the head of our EOC, they stepped up quickly. They were in constant communications with all of the partners, and they were prepared. Our city was prepared. They did such a magnificent job preparing our community, preparing our people, getting communications out. And I just couldn't be more proud to be part of this organization because they kept us all in constant contact. We had information that we needed. We got back into our community in 6 days. We had a miracle that none of the homes in our basin were lost. And it's called the miracle of Christmas Valley for a reason, as far as I'm concerned. Through the grace of God and the wonderful work of our firefighters and our law enforcement officers, and the help throughout the state and the western United States, we were saved. And I just can't say enough about that. I agree. During that time, many of the people in this room were working literally 24/7. I was evacuated. I know I was working really hard between Mr. Irvin, Chief Savicule, Chief Stevenson, Lindsay Baker, our communications manager, and myself. We did over 100 interviews, both in print, television, radio, and they were across the nation and across the world. I personally did 70 interviews, getting the word out about Calder. The funny part was my cousin called me and said, he lives in England, just outside of London, and he said, I just saw you on the news. So that was pretty interesting, and I was on Good Morning America, so Tahoe was everywhere. It's good to be Tahoe sometimes because we got a lot of national and international coverage, and I think that helped when we were trying to raise money to help the people and the victims on Echo Summit and on the West Slope. So I feel incredibly grateful to be a part of this community and a part of what we all consider the most beautiful place in the world to live. I know I do. So I can't say enough about what happened during the Calder Fire and during the ongoing pandemic. Our community has stepped up, our staff has stepped up, and this council has stepped up and tried to do everything we can to create a higher tide that raises all ships in our community. So just going back to 2020 and 2021 achievements. So one of the things that this community has done that I am grateful for is passed some sales tax measures that has allowed us to put a great investment in our first responders and our public safety. One of those things recently is a computer-aided dispatch system, and that affects everybody essentially on the South Shore because we have such great mutual aid partnerships. So this computer-aided dispatch system is either in or in the process of being put into our police department, but it affects our fire department. It's the 911 system, and we spent approximately $500,000 on that system, and it is just an incredible program that will work with what I'm going to talk about next, and that is our public safety radio system. I remember sitting in the council chambers several years ago before I was on council and watching a presentation about our public safety radio system, and literally the pictures that they showed were baling wire and tape holding this radio system together. So this council, through the aid of this community, has been able to invest approximately $5 million into a new public safety radio system that is currently being installed. And it's going to make it safer for us as community members and safer for our police and fire department to operate in this community. And it's through the investment of you as individuals through that sales tax measure, and I thank you for that. Recently, we also, I believe it was right about a year ago, we invested in a body camera system for the police department, and I think that has a twofold impact. It protects the citizens. It also protects our police officers, and it has many technological advancements that are so important, but and I won't go much into that, but we are investing in the public safety and the police department safety through that system. Recently, we also adopted a climate action plan, and we have also approved and are in the process of hiring a sustainability coordinator position at the city. Back in 2017, the city signed a 100% renewable program. That we would get 100% renewable by, I believe, 2032. And so this is part of the process for that. So we are committed to that. We are doing things with solar and working with other agencies in town to improve that. My favorite topic, housing. We have a housing crisis in town and across the nation, but really here in town. We have committed, our council has committed to putting every effort into housing. And in the last 3 years and prior to that, we've worked so hard. And I'm honored to say that in the next few years, we will be breaking ground on approximately 500 units. And they run the gamut from low-income apartments to moderate and achievable income houses for ownership, and they are all deed restricted to locals for workforce housing. And I cannot tell you how important that is for our community. You all know it's hard for anyone to live here and work here, and that is the goal. Everybody who works here should be able to afford to live here, and that is so important. And this council, every single meeting we have, something is on our agenda for housing, and our development services staff have stepped up. They are constantly being asked to do more, and they are doing it, and I am so grateful to them. One of the things that we started during COVID, and was that second committee, and that was to develop a second diversified economy. And Mayor Pro Tem Middlebrook and Councilmember Bass started a process through the community, and they had several community meetings, which then morphed into our 2021 to 2026 strategic plan. We've adopted that. Our staff has gone the extra step, and they have developed action items for every single item on that strategic plan, with staff members attributed to each of those items. And it is not just a strategic plan that is pie in the sky. It has action items, timelines, and it's one of the most well-developed strategic plans I've ever been a part of, and I'm proud to say it looks like we're going to be able to accomplish it. It's a working document that we will work on constantly, and we've already accomplished in the 80 of the items in the first year, and that's a big deal. We received approximately $5.3 million in the American Rescue Plan Act funds this last year. And because we did such a great job in our budgeting and tightening our belts during COVID, we were able to do a really great project of participatory budgeting. So we had all of these infrastructure items that we were able to go to the community and ask what the community wanted. And so we did a survey process. We had 2 tranches of money in the $2.6 million range. We've received the first tranche of money, 2.6, and we asked the community what you wanted to spend, and we are spending it the way you wanted. We're doing some really incredible things with that money. So next year, we'll see what happens with that money. When it comes in, we may have some really great housing things for you to spend that money on. And we'll see, but we wanted to let the public spend that money because that's your tax dollars. It came from the federal government, but those are your tax dollars, and I believe that. Our police department has been in a building that was built probably around the same time I was born, and it needed quite a remodel. So we spent some money this last year or so, and we remodeled the police department, got it up to code. It had some asbestos and some really big problems in there, and so we went in and we did some work in the police department, and we remodeled their building. One of the things, again, I've always said, police, fire, roads, which includes snow removal. We have spent an awful lot of money. Again, when I got on council, I would say most of the street, the snow removal equipment, most of it, not all of it, was as old as I am. And I'm not going to say how old I am. But it was pretty old and falling apart. And we immediately started investing in that. And I could be wrong, but I think we've purchased between 8 and 10 pieces of snow removal equipment in the 3 years that Mr. Bass and Mr. Middlebrook and I have been on council, and we will continue to invest in that. New graders, new blowers, and other pieces of snow removal equipment, and that will hopefully start alleviating some of the issues that this community has had. One of the other things that we heard from the community, because we have such a large Latinx population, is that we needed to be more accessible. So we are translating all of our city council meetings into Spanish translation. We have it available on our Zoom platform. We translate all of our agendas now are online and available in Spanish. So that's something that we are doing, and we are pursuing other ways to meet the needs of our Latinx population. So the other thing that we've done is we've increased other community engagement input opportunities through our Multicultural Alliance, our brand spanking new ACT Commission, which is the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Commission, and our Police Advisory Commission, which just had its first meeting a week or so ago. Right now is the time, if you're interested in getting involved in our community and getting involved at the city, we're right now taking applications for all of our city commissions. We have the Planning Commission, the Airport and Land Use Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the ACT Commission. Please, we want to hear from you. We want you to be involved, and we hope to hear from you, and we want you to come to city council meetings. I had several coffees with the mayor, and I believe Mayor Pro Tem Middlebrook is looking forward to doing something similar. I think maybe he might do an evening beer with the mayor. Yeah, sounds fun. I think I'll go to those. Yeah, I agree. He's a little younger than I am. So I think that we have made a really big effort, our council has, to reach out, to be available, to be as transparent as possible. And I have to say, this has been, again, the joy of my life to work with these individuals and to serve this community. My heart is with this community. I love you all so much. I know that sounds corny, but it's true. And I am now going to turn it over to Mr. Irvin, who, by the way, he started this job in the middle of COVID. He has worked only through COVID and then took a step forward even through Calder, and he's a rock star. So, Joe Irvin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Welcome, everybody. It is my pleasure to be here. I truly love South Lake Tahoe. I am grateful all of you came to hear us tonight, and I'm grateful for all of you who are tuning in on Facebook Live from home. I wanted to take a minute, history, the past, the present, and give you a little glimpse into what's in store for the future of the city. So in my viewpoint, cities are either growing and evolving or they're decaying. In the 1950s, America saw automobile improvements, interstate highway system provide access to places that are beautiful, such as Lake Tahoe. That was good. The common person could get out of the city and go smell some fresh air, enjoy beautiful scenery. In the 1950s, we also saw the formation of South Tahoe Public Utility District, Lake Tahoe Unified School District, the Lake Tahoe Airport opened, and Heavenly Village, or Heavenly Ski Resort, was formed. The 1960s were a transformative era for South Lake Tahoe, and the community responded to that. There was a group that was referred to as Citizens for Local Government. This was a group that was tasked and made up of business owners and residents who wanted local control and local decision-making. They put a vote on the ballot. It took place November 9th, 1965, and it passed by a vote of 2,011 voters voting to incorporate the city of South Lake Tahoe. The 1960s catapulted this city from 4 really separate and distinct neighborhoods into one city. We really went from table games to the Olympic Games, and that was pretty fascinating to read about and to hear about. I tell this because I think it's really important to recognize that every decade that passes, we have an opportunity to grow and change and meet the needs of our citizens. The 1970s was an era of recreation and collaboration. In the 60s, because of all of that growth and change, U.S. government created environmental regulation agencies. One in our backyard, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency in 1969. We had an opportunity to communicate with them on a local, regional, state, and federal level to improve the quality of our environment. And we've been working with them through the decades and our other partners to do that. Recreation. 1975, the Recreation Center was built. Even important to note, in the 1970s, we had a Parks and Recreation Teen Advisory Board who was tasked with the opportunity to come up with ideas that they would like for recreation programs. I read the history and I see a lot of similarities that the mayor was just referencing. We're reaching out, we're asking for help. We want our community to come and help shape the future and set the agenda for what is next on our horizon. So 60s and 70s, in 1980, the South Tahoe Redevelopment Agency was formed. This comes after decades of old buildings along US 50, aging, infrastructure crumbling. And they said, we need to do something. And they came up with Project Area Plan number 1, which is 174 acres and expands from State Line all the way west of Ski Run Boulevard. And its purpose was really to improve the blighted buildings, address water quality issues, and work on transportation congestion. Through the 80s and roaring into the 90s, there was much efforts put forth these goals. And it became true because the community worked together and built the goals that they wanted to see. And it took time, but it happened. 1997, the Lake Tahoe Presidential Forum was here, and we've continued that collaborative motion where we're working and rowing in the same direction to take care of this sacred watershed that we call Lake Tahoe Basin. And I think that's pretty special. Then we moved to the beginning of this new century. I actually moved here that year. It was really fun. And I can see the change that took place between 2000 and currently. Ski Run Marina was remodeled. The Ski Run Business Improvement District was formed. The gondola at Heavenly Village was built. The ice arena was opened. And we built miles and miles of bike and pedestrian trails that now are amazing. And we have so much more of those plans in the works. The Great Recession came, and it not only impacted us here in South Lake Tahoe, but the whole country. And the RDA monies in California were no longer available. And I give credit to the city at that time because they pivoted and they turned their focus into planning, which essentially has teed us up to make major investment now when things are ready. So I'm very excited for the future. We're here. It's 2021. The city's strong, healthy, and we're ready to lead. Going forward, the city's investing heavily on affordable housing, as the mayor said. Public safety improvements, technology and broadband infrastructure is the top of the list. And finding ways to diversify our local economy is something we truly need to focus on. The mayor mentioned we adopted a climate action plan in October of 2020. We continue to actively work with our partners, School District, Barton, Lake Tahoe Community College, South Tahoe Refuse, South Tahoe Public Utility District, to try to once again establish local control like our city fathers did when they created this city. And what that is related to is actually gaining some energy reliance and independence, trying to create a system that has 24/7 renewable energy. That's a goal. It'll save us all money. It'll help us determine our future. And I look forward to seeing how that work happens. Okay. So, public service, I'm a public administrator and I love public service. It's tiring, it's hard, but I know I'm joined here with an amazing group of senior leadership team members who set up their booths around the table to show you what they're working on. We all kind of follow a couple different things that help guide our direction each day. Really, we try to find a way to get to yes. It's not always feasible, it's not always possible, but while we're doing that, we should at least have the courtesy to listen to anyone's idea that comes in and talks to us And I hope that you all do that if you have that idea. Some of you I have talked to. And that's something that we pride ourselves in. And please recognize that it's not always easy to say yes, but we're committed to working with you to try to find a way to get there. My leadership philosophy really comes down to five things. I believe people matter. We need to treat people with dignity, respect, and compassion. Leadership exists at all levels. We need to create a culture of innovative thinking where that's welcomed. We need to be a high-performing organization where we do more with less and faster. Continuous improvement, let's learn from our mistakes and fix it. And results matter. The strategic plan priorities, that's our focus. That's where we're moving. Our departments are aligned to implement those initiatives. And then, well, days are long and tough, and the community sometimes isn't aligned all 100% that we're doing this or going this way. I find myself waking up in the morning and I make a pot of coffee and I talk to my wife and daughter and I say, what's my inspiration today? What's keeping me going? And something I read a few years back was the Athenian Oath. And it's really, the words describe what it is to be a true public servant and a true citizen. I'd like to just take a minute and read it to you, if I may. We will never bring disgrace to this city by an act of dishonesty or cowardice. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of this city, both alone and with many. We will revere and obey city laws, and we'll do our best to incite like reverence and respect in those who, above us, prone to cancel or set them at nothing. We will strive to quicken the public sense of civic duty. Thus, in all ways, we will transmit this city not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. In other words, I'm committed to leaving this place, hopefully not for a long, long time, but when I do, it will be better when I leave. And I hope you join me in that challenge as you live in this city and you work in this city, because we can all work together and really move rocks up mountains. It's hard work, but if we do it, we can really change this place. And the history I provided earlier has showed that we've done it in the past. Some of the projects on the horizon that I'd like to highlight that are in the strategic plan include the implementation of the 56-acre master plan. We're in design phase on a 60,000 square foot multi-generation recreation and aquatic center on the 56-acre site. We're improving bike and trail connections. We're working to build out state-of-the-art broadband system. The mayor mentioned it, housing. We're putting money into building housing, and we are working to build programs that support that housing. We're remodeling and committing to public facility upgrades. Development Services over on Tahoe Lane is in dire need of some upgrades. Fire Station 3 is on the radar. We just signed a contract to do the architectural and engineering work on that. That's something we need to do. The police department implemented the South Tahoe Alternative Collaborative Service Model, aka STACS. Basically, we're taking a leadership role and pulling our county folks together to work on mental and behavioral health issues so we can better respond and better have the right person respond to issues that are happening in our community. Defensible space, this is new on the agenda. Council recently committed to supporting a fire bureau in our fire department, and I'm excited to see that grow so we can keep our community safe. We want to work on improving transit options while working with our regional partners to implement the Main Street vision in the casino core. That also is something we're focusing on. Here we go. Unless you're up front, you probably can't see all this, but service delivery. Service delivery is what we do. All of the projects I just mentioned and the ones that the mayor talked about as well are special projects. Yes, they're connected to our strategic plan, but they're kind of one-time and moment projects sometimes. The nuts and bolts and the wheel turning behind the screens that our staff works on day in and day out is absolutely amazing. We have 200 employees who are dedicated. They work tirelessly. I've found them to be competent, ethical, innovative, hardworking individuals who truly connect to the mission of public service. And that's something we're going to continue working on. On top of these stats, during COVID, which has just thrown us all a curveball, we hosted 15 vaccination clinics and vaccinated 3,620 individuals. I'd like to highlight some of these stats for you, just to kind of point out the amount of work that goes into the things behind the scenes that our staff is working on. 9,627 building inspections from our Development Services Department. 17,509 police department calls for service. And I'll note, this is in a 10-month window. This is January 1 to October 31st of this year. 139 potholes filled, 50 miles of street and bike lanes painted to keep us safe as we walk and drive. 3,261 fire department calls for service. 47 capital projects currently being managed with an engineering staff of about 4 people. That's remarkable. 24 grants received, which is also remarkable, totaling $18.5 million. So I just would like to ask everyone in this room to just give a huge round of applause to the City of South Lake Tahoe team. We're very lucky to have the people working for this community. And I'm sincere and earnest in my comments that if we just take the time to get to know each other and work together, we can achieve a lot. And that is our values. We achieve the SLT way. Finally, the mayor mentioned it, stay engaged. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Follow our city council meetings or other events on Facebook Live. Participate in our quarterly community conversations. Sign up and get the newsletter, the At Lake Level newsletter. We're here, we're listening, and we want you to participate. And I finally would just end with saying thank you very much, again, from the bottom of my heart for being here and for supporting the city as we move on these initiatives. And remember, the city is strong, healthy, and ready to lead. Thank you very much.
And we don't have any. So you must know everything you need to know about the city. I'm ready to, well, we don't have any written questions, so I guess we can just take them from the floor and I'll just repeat them or Joe will repeat them. How's that?
When do we expect for the Sugar Pine and the multipurpose center to be break ground?
So the question is, when do we expect Sugar Pine Village and the multi-generational recreation center to be breaking ground? Well, we intend to do, I'll start with the second one first because that's easier. The multi-generational facility, we plan to break ground on the groundwork next year, next spring, and then we plan to go vertical in 2023. Because we have enough money in the bank from Measure P, which was a TOT increase, to pay 100% out of, with no bonding on the in-ground work on the multi-generational facility. We will only have to bond the vertical build. With regards to Sugar Pine Village, which is the 248-unit complex of affordable housing on the 10 acres near Tata Lane and Lake Tahoe Boulevard, not far from the high school. I believe, and I will maybe defer to Joe on this, but they are starting financing on the first 120 units. Yep. And they hope to break ground on that first section in 2023. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah, I try to stay up to date on those. Any other questions?
All right.
Yeah.
So if people want to volunteer and get involved in some of the projects that are happening, are they able to just reach out through
Okay, so the question is, if you want to get involved, how do you do that? There's multiple ways. So as I mentioned, right now we're taking applications for all the city commissions. And like I said, there's Planning Commission, Airport Land Use, Arts, Culture, and Tourism, and so on and so forth. There's many commissions, and that's an application process with a city council appointment. And in order to do that, you fill out the application, and it's available on the city clerk's page on our website, cityofslt.us, and then just go to the city clerk's website. Now, there are other ways to volunteer, and it's through the rec center, and they have a process. So you would just contact Lauren Tomaselli at the city's recreation center, and she can help you with that. And she has many ways that you can volunteer. So, and I encourage you to do that. There are so many ways to volunteer with the city. Or you can run for city council. There is an election next year.
The ultimate volunteer.
That is the ultimate volunteer. I make negative 27 cents an hour, and I love my job. It's a joke. Sorry. It's a bad joke. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, Joe made reference to, a quick reference to the loop road and the state line redevelopment. What's the city's stance on that? Are we still backing the loop road?
I'll take it.
I will let Joe take that.
So the most current action is on.
Repeat the question.
Oh, yeah, repeat the question. Thank you. What is the current status with the Loop Road, otherwise known as the US 50 South Shore Community Revitalization Project? It's a whole package of public improvements. The City Council in February approved a resolution that stated we would like to preserve the Rocky Point neighborhood, which is the neighborhood directly west of the Rayleighs at State Line, and find an alternative route for the US 50 to route around rather than through that neighborhood. Additionally, the resolution states that the city's completely in favor and supports the Main Street element. We support adding public housing, and we support improving transit. So I think that answers your question. We're continuing to work through those complex issues with our regional partners. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
All right.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming. This has been such a joy to put together, and I've wanted to do one of these for a very long time, and I not only got to do one of these, I got to participate, and it's such a blessing. So thank you. I look forward to attending when Mayor Pro Tem Middlebrook does this next year, and heckling from the audience. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.